Hello, Blue Jays fans, and welcome to episode 273 of the Jays from the Couch radio podcast, brought to you by, of course, jaysfromthecouch.com. It's Blue Jays Talk for All, coming at you with another episode. We're streaming live on YouTube and Facebook and Twitter, so thank you for tuning in there, and that's where you can join the show, really. Send us your questions and comments, and we'll fire them up on the screen and tell you all the ways that you are right and we are wrong. And of course, if you're missing the live stream, that's okay. Don't worry. You can always go back and check our Facebook page and our YouTube channel, but also catch the audio version on Apple, Google, Spotify. Anywhere you find a podcast, you'll find Jays from the Couch. And I'm your host, as always, Sean Doyle. You can follow me on Twitter at JFtC. We've got a great episode for you again this week. We're going to lead off again with our fake Blue Jays news segment. It is quickly becoming the highlight of my week. I really look forward to this. And then playoffs. It's playoffs, baby. The Toronto Blue Jays currently, as of right now, are in the playoffs, which is huge, right? Because there's a lot of people who said they wouldn't be. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about some postseason stuff and the last few weeks of the season. And to help me do all of this, host of the On Feck Circle, Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, the Feckless Wonder himself, Steve Feck. How are you?
I'm doing just great, Sean. How are you?
I am almost as good as you. And that applies in almost every situation. But
that's not saying a whole lot. You know, I mean, if you're only as good as I am, then you need to work on that.
Touche. All right, and host of the Sunny Side of the Dome, Thursdays at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, it's Karen Suter. Karen, good evening to you.
Good evening, Sean. Good evening, Steve.
Hey, Karen.
All right, so we're all here. We're all settled in. Everybody's watching at home or wherever they're watching, and they're ready. So, without further ado, I don't really need to go into the explanation of our fake Blue Jays news segment, but essentially it's all made up. It's just for fun to try and elicit some laughs, which, you know, may or may not come. We'll never know because they're watching at home. But we have fun, so let's get to it. Jays from the Couch presents fake Blue Jays news. Karen, over to you.
So, yes, as we all know, the Blue Jays are red hot lately, and a big part of that has been their offensive explosion. Just this past weekend, they pummeled the Baltimore Orioles, and in yesterday's game, they got won by a score of 22-7. In doing so, they outscored 14 NFL teams. And since then, unconfirmed reports have surfaced that several NFL teams have approached the Toronto Blue Jays, trying to hire Blue Jays hitting coach Guillermo Martinez as their offensive coordinator. The Blue Jays front office could not be reached for comment.
Steve, over to you.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Karen. Blue Jays infielder Kevin Bizio, after receiving a positive second opinion on his elbow injury, has returned to a rehab assignment at AAA Buffalo. But if Jays fans are anticipating a Bizio return to the lineup down the stretch, they may be sorely disappointed. During a weekend Zoom call with the Toronto media contingent, General Manager Ross Atkins indicated a healthy Bizio would be assigned on loan to Toronto FC of Major League Soccer. Kevin embraces the challenges of playing multiple positions, and we believe giving him an opportunity to play as a goalkeeper for Toronto FC will only increase his versatility and value to the Blue Jays in the future. The improved cardio alone will make Bizio a dangerous weapon in 2022 and beyond. Bizio declined to comment on the speculation, but Tony Clark, executive director of the MLBPA, and Patrick Mullins, Toronto FC elected player representative to the executive board of Major League Soccer's Player Association, indicated each union would file a grievance should this roster move be attempted. Another roster mystery was answered when Esteban Fecklesius of the Pathetic pressed Atkins on additions of Gerard Dyson and Joaquim Soria to the 40-man roster, potentially at the risk of losing more valuable prospects and veterans. Atkins admitted adding these players as well as the retention of struggling players like Rafael Dolis, well beyond their effectiveness during the season, were a test for Charlie Montoyo. We wanted to test Charlie's abilities to best utilize our roster in the midst of a pennant race. He has been great getting the most out of Breivik Valera, Reese McGuire, and other POSs all season. If he could continue this with guys like Dyson and Soria while trying to secure a wildcard berth, then Blue Jays fans would know Charlie is the man to lead us to an AL pennant. When asked about the signing of Pirates cast-off Gregory Polanco, Atkins admitted, yeah, to his credit, Charlie drew the line on activating Polanco. But Buffalo AAA manager Casey Candell is still pretty pissed, though. And after the fiery exchanges by Orioles manager Brandon Hyde and Blue Jays ace Robbie Ray over suspected sign stealing during Ray's Friday night start in Baltimore, Charlie Montoyo is reported to be working out a better, absolutely unique way to relay signs and call pitches from the dugout. Montoyo, his staff, and players have been going over in-game signs and strategies using the bongos the manager keeps in his Rogers Center office. Reports indicate initial response has proven to be positive, and this should be in place should the Blue Jays secure a wildcard spot. Team management has also proposed piping music during games played at Rogers Center from Canadian radio staples as a means to let hitters and pitchers know what the manager has planned for the next inning. An anonymous team official indicated the value of using music by artists such as Bruce Coburn, Martha and the Muffins, Paolas, and Chilliwack makes sense since virtually no one outside of Canada has ever heard their songs. Over to you, Sean.
Continuing with fake Blue Jays news for this evening. Baltimore Orioles pitcher Fernando Abad after a bad up eight. Oh, I butchered it already. Good thing it's not real. Anyway, Fernando Abad, after going after Lourdes Gurriel and knocking him to the ground, has decided that he will be trying out for the Baltimore Ravens team as soon as tryouts are opened, acknowledging, and I quote, "My career in baseball hasn't been that good anyway." And in other news, Baltimore, sticking with Baltimore, of course. Baltimore manager Brandon Hyde had some strong words for Robbie Ray, guessing they were about his pants. When asked after the game, Brandon Hyde said, "I don't know what you're talking about. I had something to drink earlier, and then somebody else took the job. I think it was that Brandon Jekyll." And he continued to say, "I will go get him." And then, sources say, you heard tires squealing, and he was never to be found again. Remember, they don't have to be funny.
I think I hear Montoyo in the background going on the
bungalow. Continuing with fake Blue Jays news, after the Toronto Blue Jays failed to retaliate for what was clearly an intentional block of Lourdes Gurriel, former Blue Jays were reached for comment, and Kevin Pillar and Josh Donaldson, Blue Jays fans will remember that in Texas, they had no trouble going after the Texas Rangers bench. When they were reached for comment, both Pillar and Donaldson echoed the same sentiment. This Blue Jays team is young. They're just too young, and they're not old enough and mature enough to understand that you are to stand up for your teammate. In response, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. said, "Yeah, well, you're a farty duty head." And finally, in fake Blue Jays news, I just said farty duty head. Like, I'm going to need a minute here. Anyway, again, the Toronto
compensation pick, right?
the Toronto Blue Jays failed to stand up for themselves in the eyes of some viewers and some fans. And they have options available to them, of course. They could file a complaint if they chose to. They could even hit a batter, whatever. They chose to do none of those things. However, Jays from the Couch has just uncovered a complaint and the transcript of a discussion between the Toronto Blue Jays and Major League Baseball Commissioner Rob Manfred. And I will summarize said conversation for you. Dear Mr. Manfred, we would like to express our sincere dismay at the lack of respect and physical violence shown to our team by the Baltimore Orioles. Rob Manfred replied with, wait, we have a team in Toronto? And that's it for fake Blue Jays news. Okay. I love the fake Blue Jays news. I really do. And I don't even know if our listeners or viewers out there are enjoying it as much as we are, but I don't even care right now. I'm enjoying it quite a bit.
We're entertaining each other. That's all that counts.
And if you listen, if you can't have fun, what's the point, right?
The Jays have fun on the bench. We have fun on our bench.
There you go. I'm going to take 2 paper cups and make binoculars out of them, and somebody will say I'm not taking the game seriously. But anyway, speaking of having fun, though, this Toronto Blue Jays team is giving everybody a lot of fun and a lot of excitement now following the team after the last week, 2 weeks, really. They've been just rolling through Oakland and New York, and then we thought we'd never lose again. And then, of course, the first game in Baltimore happened, but then they won again and outscored the like 44 runs in a series. That is just mind-blowing, first of all. But
44 runs in the 3 games they won, plus another 3.
What did I say?
You said 44 runs in the series.
Oh, my apologies.
Runs in the 3 games that they won, and another 3 in the game that they lost. So
yeah. I don't. Yeah. Let's forget about the loss because it was to the Orioles. Let's pretend that didn't happen. It's more fake Blue Jays news. Blue Jays lost Friday night. Yes, that's fake. Anyway, but the scoring 47 runs in their series. But regardless, Karen, I'm going to start with you because forever you've been saying, and sometimes you were the only one saying, that this is a playoff team. And now, again, as of recording, they are a playoff team. So I guess, Karen, I'm going to start with you. What are your thoughts as of right now where the Toronto Blue Jays sit? Because there's lots of time still to fall out of that spot, or there's lots of time to increase the lead that they have in that spot. So I guess my question is, Karen, how are you feeling right now?
Yeah, I'm feeling reasonably good. If you ask me on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident am I that they are going to be one of those wild card teams? I'd say about an 8 out of 10. I mean, even before that amazing game against Oakland that seemed to kind of kickstart all of this, that they were sort of sliding, and while I had not given up on them, but that the hope was starting to wane a bit because it's getting later. And like I said to a few people, it's not that they're out of it. Some people are saying their season is over. I'm not saying that. I'm saying, and a lot of people, though, Stephen, it wasn't just you. But yes, hi, Bobby. Yes, Jays are playing amazing, and it's fun again. Yeah, so I remember saying to people, it's not that they're out of it, but time is running out, and they really need to get hot and stay hot. Now, I think the team has the talent to do that. It's whether they're going to put it together and do it. And man, have they ever put it together and done it? And I feel good. I'm not going to sit here and try to tell you 100%, but I feel good that they're going to continue this role. And yeah, I mean, they're playing some teams, knock on wood, that they should be able to beat. I mean, a few more against three more against Baltimore, although those weren't easy. They proved that that they are a major league team, and they're a better team than the one that's lost 19 in a row. I mean, since then they've been close to 500 since then. So that's a lot better than 0-19. And then the last place Minnesota Twins. So they've got some games against some teams that they should beat. Knock on wood. They just have to keep playing their best baseball and see what happens against Tampa Bay and New York. But I mean, they've already won 2 series against Tampa Bay this year. They've won them 2-1, and that's before the Jays were as hot as they've been lately. So I'm predicting another 2-1 series victory starting today. So.
And that's not a bad bet. Steve, I'm going to go to you now because, and as Karen acknowledged, you were not the only one. There were lots of Blue Jays fans out there saying that they were not a playoff team, right? And here we are. They're in a playoff spot right now. But Steve, you said by the end of the season, they will not be a playoff team. So I guess my first question is, are you still saying that? And if not, or if so, I need you to kind of walk us through that.
Well, because everybody expects me to say they're not a playoff team, I'm going to say they're not a playoff team. Okay, as of right now, they're in a playoff spot, and that is terrific. And a lot of things play to their advantage. As I've been saying for weeks, the Yankees are done. And it wasn't just the series against the Jays that proved that. And if you look at who they play the last 3 series of the years, it's the Red Sox, the Blue Jays, and the Rays. The Yankees are done. It's over. It's over, New York fans. It's over. So that boils down to, do the Red Sox hang on, which I truly do believe they will. We had a really brief conversation about who do you want to see win, the Red Sox or the Mariners. I mean, I would much rather play the Red Sox in a wild card game than play the Mariners. The Mariners are a true wild card. New York sucks. Well, again, I'm from there originally, but it does suck. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I really can't, even with all the feel-good thing about 9/11, New York sucks. At least 14-wise. The city itself and the region's great, but.
And the people, too. The people from New York, let's not. It's just the Yankees.
Well, no, again, I'm from New York. So if you would extrapolate it out, New York people suck. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, I can go along with that. Yeah, I'm fine with that. But but anyway, back to the thing. I really am nervous that something. This was really the first time, this stretch here with Oakland, Yankees, Orioles, that I felt that the Blue Jays did everything they needed to do in order to advance their cause to make a playoff spot. And I just don't know if that's going to continue. So I'm going to be the contrarian for the sake of the podcast and just for the basic fact that I'm a jerk and say the Blue Jays are not a playoff team.
Okay, but for the sake of the podcast, do you really believe that, though?
Yeah, you know what? I just have that feeling. I mean, again, I referenced this before. For me, this is 1987 all over again. Even with them having a really comfortable lead as late as 7 days left in the season, I just knew in my gut the Blue Jays weren't going to win the AL East. And in this case, it's a playoff spot. Again, there's no, I can't take figures and show projections as to why this is. In my gut, I just feel that they are not going to make the playoffs.
All right, Karen, get them.
No, just a question. So now it's not being argumentative. So, Steve, imagine this scenario, if you will. An eccentric millionaire approaches you and says, Steve Feck, if you can tell me right now who the 2 AL wildcard teams will be in 2021, and you're right, here's a check with $1 million. So who are your 2 teams?
The Red Sox and the Mariners. The Mariners are just one of those stories. We've talked a lot about the 2007 Rockies. I just think the Mariners, everything, even things that on the surface seem to be really stupid and wrong, the Mariners and DePoto have pulled things together. And I just think they're too young to be scared. They're younger even than the Blue Jays. I think they're too young to be scared. So I think it's going to be the Red Sox and the Mariners, especially if the Mariners do take this series against the Red Sox.
Interesting.
Yikes. So, Karen, same question then. Who are your two?
But I do believe Blue Jays, and I honestly think that both the Athletics and the Mariners are starting to fall back from the pack a little bit. So I can't really tell you who I think it's going to be between the Yankees and Red Sox. I'd have to think about it and get back to. But yeah, I was saying, because somebody that I follow on Twitter posted a really interesting question that, if you are playing a one-game wild card playoff, who would you rather face if you're the Blue Jays, Chris Sale or Garrett Cole? And so my best case scenario is the Blue Jays clinch the first wild card spot, so they get to host the game. The Yankees and Red Sox finish game 162 with an identical record. They have to play game 163, and they each burn their ace. So whoever the Jays gets have to beat their second best starter, whereas we have our best starter just lined up and waiting.
Which is a perfect segue. And for the record, it would be unfair if I didn't, if I weren't put on the spot. So I'm going to say Toronto and Boston. Unfortunately, I just have this feeling that Boston is, they got themselves a nice little early season, mid-season cushion. And that's, and it makes me sick to my stomach to say it, but there it is. And along with Bobby watching on Facebook, Matt is watching on YouTube as well. And Matt says that it would be a nice little fairy tale story for the Mariners. But unfortunately, in my opinion, fairy tales are just that. They're stories. And I don't know that we should... I don't see it happening. How about that? That's all. But Karen's point about starting pitching. Okay. And Karen asked a great question behind the scenes at Jays from the Couch. And I was really interested in seeing everybody's responses. So Karen, I'm going to throw it to you to kind of throw the question out there, and Bobby watching on Facebook and Matt watching on YouTube and everybody else watching wherever you're watching. Maybe you could weigh in on this as well, because it's a fascinating little question. Go ahead, Karen.
Right. So Jays are very competitive right now. At the moment, they hold one of the wild card spots. As Blue Jays fans, of course, hope that they're still holding one of those spots at the end of the season. So it's entirely possible that the Jays could be faced with a one-game winner goes on, loser goes home type of scenario. So let's call that the wild card game. So the Blue Jays, and I'm not going to count Ross Stripling for now because he's been on the IL for a while, and he came back the other day and looked rusty. So taking him out of the picture for the time being. So I'm going to go with the Jays' main starting rotation that is formed for them. So in alphabetical order, Jose Barrios, Alec Manoah, Steven Matz, Robbie Ray, and Hyunjin Ryu. So rank order 1 through 5, who you would from most to least prefer to start that game for the Toronto Blue Jays. Who do you most trust? Who do you least trust?
And I don't mind weighing in here. So the interesting thing for me is that if it comes down to a game 163 or the last game of the season, and you need to win or you're done, that's a different question than if you're just setting up a rotation for like a playoff series, right? So really, you need a one winner take all start, right? And who's going to provide that? So in my estimation, I would go Ray as my number one. Right now, and Steve has said this a number of times, there isn't a better pitcher in the American League right now. So Robbie Ray. Then I would put Ryu after him, then Barrios, then Manoah, then Matz. And I don't know that anybody would have Matz in the top 3, but that's just my opinion. So, Steve, I'll throw it to you here. But before we do, Matt weighs in. Ray, Barrios, Manoa, Mats, and Ryu. Wow. And Matt realized mid-comment that that his opinion of Hyunjin Ryu was worse than he thought it was. Which, Matt, I totally get it. We've talked many times behind the scenes about how good Ryu is when he's on and how not he is when he's not. But thanks, Matt, for that. That's not a bad selection there. Steve, where are you with your top 5?
As much as I am enamored of Robbie Ray's season this year, if we're talking about a wild card game, I think I would start Alek Manoah. I would go Manoah, then Ray, then Barrios, and Ryu, and Steven Matz can come out of the bullpen, give extended innings in case something goes wrong, in the next playoff series, because I really think if the Blue Jays make the wild card spot, in their mind, I really think from a front office to the manager and the coaching staff down to the players, I think they really would look at a wild card game as just a mere formality. If they've overcome everything they've come to it and they make a wild card spot, I don't think it really matters who they play in the wild card game. But I would start Alek Manoah.
And you're talking about the one game play-in.
The wild card play-in. That's correct.
Yeah. Right. Okay,
right.
That's interesting. That's a lot of faith, and I know you're high on Manoah anyway, but that's a lot of faith in the young man.
I think it sets you up, and because people really still don't have a book on him. I mean, I don't think Manoah's really been figured out by the majority of major league teams at this point. I think that would really – he's got swing and miss stuff. He is intimidating in a lot of ways, and I really think it would just – even if he only goes 5 innings or 6 innings, and obviously there's somebody in the background that doesn't agree with me, and I apologize for upsetting that fan in the back. But I would go Manoah, and then I would set up your playoff rotation where you've got Ray, Barrios, Ryu, and then you can come back with Manoah.
You might be picking up the visitor I have trapped in my wood stove for all those watching or listening whenever there's a bird trapped in my wood stove, and I am afraid of birds, so I am not going anywhere near it, but it's over there taunting me, and I apologize for the ruckus it is causing.
No, see, I was trying to have people ignore it so we could just say people would figure out, people would be knocking on the doors and scratching to get and yell at me. That would make much sense. I was trying to avoid, the bird phobia issue coming up for an international audience. But
hey, you know what? Listen,
kudos to you for fessing up.
There's nothing wrong with being afraid of things. I'm just saying, it happens. Okay. Apparently the Blue Jays are afraid of retaliating when somebody body checks one of their runners. I don't know. It's just a thing. I don't know why I'm stuck on that point because really it's not a big deal. But to me, when I saw that, I don't get it. But anyway, so Karen, you still didn't. I don't know if you threw out your one game plan.
I didn't get whether it's the one game plan or whether it's the wild card, any winner goes on, loser goes home type of scenario. So it could fit either of those. So I put the question out there, and now we're back to me for my answer. Yeah, we're all kind of all over the place between us and listeners and other people I've spoken to. So I'm with Matt, I think, about 1-2. I mean, Robbie Ray has been one of the best pitchers in the American League. He's a legitimate candidate for AL Cy Young Award. I don't know if he'll win it or not. He might. But to me, he is the one pitcher that the Jays have access to that give them the best chance. So if he's available, absolutely, he's taking the ball. If he had to play in the last game of the regular season in order to get them to the wild card, and he's the only one who's not available, I think Jose Barrios is my 1A. I mean, he was inconsistent for a while, had a couple of bad starts as a Blue Jay, but then he came back and he was lights out. And when somebody says to me, I made a mechanical adjustment, it's like, okay, this wasn't an accident. He found something that wasn't working and he addressed it. So I'm pretty confident now when either of those two guys take the mound. And then after that, it sort of drops off. I really like Alek Manoah as well. I'm not really sure, and maybe you guys can give your opinions about, like, to what extent is the fact that he is an MLB rookie a detriment? Or, I mean, Steve, you said as well, maybe it's not a detriment, maybe it's the other way around. Maybe all of MLB doesn't have that much of a book on him. But I know that there are people out there that value the experience factor beyond anything else. And I think the experience factor matters, having been in MLB, having been in the MLB playoffs in the past. Just for me, I think there's a time where there's diminishing returns. And I myself, like Matt as well, unfortunately, I've got Hyunjin Ryu number 5. I just find him, he can be really, really good at times. But when he doesn't have it, to me, and it's happened a few times lately, that's when he doesn't have it, he doesn't give. I mean, Robbie Ray didn't have it on Friday, and he gave up 3 runs. I wish Ryu, when he didn't have it, would only give up 3 runs, but no. When he doesn't have it, he digs the team a hole, and George Springer has got to come out late and hit one out of the ballpark and salvage a win, and that's happened a couple of times lately. But so yeah, I think for me, you've got Ray, Barrios, Ryu is 5th. And I'm a little torn about 3 and 4. I think at this point I'm probably putting Manoah 3 and Matt's 4. Matt's was all of a sudden, as of the beginning of August, he was really, really good up until yesterday. And I don't know what happened yesterday. It didn't matter because the team scored 22 runs, but he gave up a bunch of runs all of a sudden for the first time in a month and a half. So was it just that he was sitting on the bench for so much time while the team was hitting grand slam after grand slam after grand slam? Or, was he just rusty sitting there for that much time? Or was he due for a subpar outing? Because he's been inconsistent too. So I guess that's my order there.
Right. And what I like about this whole situation is that let's say we go with Ray for that 1 game play-in. You have Barrios, Manoah for the 2 of the next series, right? The first 2 games. And we saw Charlie Montoyo run Matt Shoemaker out for game 1 and save Ryu for game 2, right? So maybe now that he has a more logical starting rotation, maybe we will see a more logical game plan here, right? But let's
hope they get there first.
Right. And I was just gonna say, like, it's a fascinating conversation. It's a lot of fun to talk about, setting up your playoff rotation and all that stuff. But there's still a couple of weeks left in the season, and the grasp that the Blue Jays have on that playoff spot is not exactly cemented. So there's a lot of baseball left, and it's so exciting. Here we are recording this on September 13th. Blue Jays are in a playoff spot. They've been charging for the first half of September. Now they need to continue to hold that. There is nothing better than a playoff race. Playoffs are great. I love playoffs, but the race to get there, there's something about that because so much can happen. And as it happens, we'll be here to discuss it every Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. We stream live. I want to send a shout out to Bobby and Matt for watching and joining in on the conversation. We really do appreciate it. It makes it a much better show when we have audience participation. So thank you so much for that. And the audio version of our podcast, all 273 episodes worth, everywhere you find quality podcasts, you'll find us there. Subscribe, give us a rate and review and all that fun stuff. It helps us out a lot, and we'd appreciate it. So for Karen and Steve, I want to say thank you again for joining me. You make this, first of all, being good sports with my stupid idea of fake Blue Jays news. I love it. And thank you for running with it. But thank you, as always, for joining me.
Thank you.
So, to be here.
For Steve, for Karen, oh, and don't forget, Sunny Side of the Dome, Thursdays, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. On Fact Circle tomorrow evening, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. We just keep rolling out the quality Blue Jays content for everybody. We're on it. So for Karen, for Steve, for Bobby, for Matt, and let me see for
the bird.
The bird stuck in my wood stove. It can die there. That's like, and I know people are going to be like, no, I'm afraid of birds. I'm not going anywhere near it. So. This is Sean Doyle. You can follow me on Twitter at Doyle JFtC. Hoping life gives you a juicy fastball down the middle and you don't miss it. Take care.